Last week, we enjoyed the sunshine of Florida out to the east at the historic Sebring International Raceway. But today, we've crossed a continent and arrived at the other shore of North America to enjoy the California coast. Sonoma plays host to our race, but unlike IndyCar, the community has opted for the NASCAR layout of this winding road course. Shorter and very tough to overtake, we'll see who can manage the hills and crests as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Pekin. With me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, I think the past 3 decades have caused this place to be more closely associated with stock cars, but quite a few different types of racing have taken place here, if we're honest.
Absolutely right, Joe. Apart from NASCAR and IndyCar, several series have visited Sonoma Raceway, including endurance and touring car events, drag races, motorcycle races, to name just a few. And the first race at Sonoma was held in 1968, just a few months after the track was finished. The original owners had the idea to create a racetrack in Sonoma during a hunting trip, and in the span of just a few months the track was realized. And like Joe mentioned, today we will use the shorter NASCAR course. This cuts out the infield part between turn 4 and 7 and utilizes the so-called chute. This area of the track has been heavily criticized in real-life racing as it removes a possible overtaking spot. Now, overtaking will be difficult around here because there's not really a long straight to win a position, and doing so will require or a mistake of another driver or buckets of courage. But before we go green, let's experience ourselves how a lap under the Californian sun looks like. So let's hop on board the GSRC LOTUS 49 for a spin around Sonoma Raceway.
All right, we've got Ben Zocco in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Sonoma. Turn 1 needs a big lift, and then honestly, you're slowing the car all the way up the hill as you reach turn 2. The drivers will really be tiptoeing around this right-hander with its blind crest. Don't expect many passes into here. Before you know it, you're slowing it up again for 3 and 3A. These corners are complete opposites, compressing hard into a left, and then there's a giant rise over the right-hander. There can sometimes be an opportunity to pass down into 4, but it'll take a real element of surprise to get it done. Careful not to bottom out on the exit curb, and then you plunge downhill into 7. Here's another place where a mistake from the car ahead can facilitate an overtake. But look at how the track jinks back as it rejoins the main circuit. You gotta watch out that you don't tangle with the other car if you're side by side. And honestly, you don't want to be racing too wide into the S's anyways. You'll be dancing on the throttle all the way through this series of corners, but always making sure that you get the car off to the left to set up for 10. This is a corner that will test the prowess of the best right foot because being able to accelerate smoothly gives you a great chance to pass into the hairpin. But this final section of track is more like a street course than a permanent road circuit. Concrete walls are waiting to collect you all the way to the line. If you're brave, you can track out all the way to the barriers, but always be wary of the on-throttle oversteer this car gets. Hopefully, if you kept it together, you've now finished a lap around Sonoma. There you see a lap around, a very short lap really, around Sonoma's Cup car layout. Now, the cars have taken to the track to get some of their qualifying laps in, and as we wait for that, we have a couple championships to go through, starting out with the Drivers' Championship, the overall Drivers' Championship. You see David Gasper has really come out swinging from the SRF, and Dave Price, interestingly, there in second because Mick Claridge having not the greatest of weeks in the second round. Ove Trangrade holding down third. And Demetrios Huda-Luiz certainly has the pace, but is struggling to get a little bit better results. We'll see if he can maybe do something this week. Mick Claridge slipping down to 5th after his bad results, and he's not going to improve this week because he is not here today, unfortunately. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, we also have a Formula 2, sort of an amateur championship. Johan, what does that look like?
Yeah, in first place, it has always been for the last races and also last season. Hideki Koifisto having a good run last time around at Sebring, gaining 1 position on Matt Wright and grabbing that lead in the Formula 2 Championship. Now in P2, Stef Veenhoff is doing quite well in his debut season in the Lotus 49, but the Dutch driver is not here today, so he will be probably relinquishing that P2 position to Matt Wright, who will be there on track today, trying to re-grab that P1 position that he lost at Sebring. Tony Tuolis gained a position last time around, and he's currently sharing that P3 position with Matt Wright. And Andres Bruno, the Argentinian driver, gained a lot of positions and is currently sitting in P5, Joe.
They also hold a Constructors' Championship in the Lotus 49 World Cup. However, it's more like a Nations Cup over here. Now, because of Gasper's good results, he is topping that as well for Germany. And then Claridge and Price have come together to try and get the UK up there, with Trangrade really being the only one contributing for Norway. Huda Ludwig for Greece as well. Not a common one we see here on iRacing. And the US surprisingly only has one so far. That should probably change as they have a number of drivers here in the series from the US. Teal being the one contributing there. What about the race that we have in store for us? We talked about the track, but the race itself, Johan, what's it got?
Yeah, this race is part of the Lotus 49 Championship. 12 races will be there this season, and this is round 3. You see 2 watermarks behind it. That means it will be 2 drop weeks. The 2 worst results of each driver will be taken away. Now, the race today will be 20 laps. 20 times the drivers will lap the Sonoma Raceway in open setups. That means the drivers can tweak the cars just to their liking, like higher tire pressure, change the camber of the wheels a little bit, just so the car is perfect to conquer these Californian hills. And the scoring has changed since last season, as you can see below, with 40 points for the victor, 35 for P2, and 30 points for P3.
And as we watch our current pole sitter, Michel Dudignon, come around for his second lap, we're waiting on Gaspers to put his first time in. And I want to talk about his approach once we watch Michel come across the line and see what his second lap brings here. He's at a 112 flat currently, and as he comes across, a 112.2, so he does not improve. Now, Johan, I was watching Gaspers get ready on his first lap. He swung it way out wide in that hairpin and then gunned it off. Do you think there's really that much time to be found there to try and get that extra run?
I think it is, man. Joe, to be honest, if David Gaspers is trying it, I think everyone should try it, because that driver has been phenomenal. But now I'm saying that I do see that his first lap time didn't count. Probably the German driver had an off track. So as he's going through the final chicane or the final hairpin now to complete his second lap time, I think this will be the only run that he has to do a quick lap time. Now he hugs it on the outside, swings it to the apex, comes across the line now and puts in a 112.4. That's only enough for P3. So the German driver that we've seen on pole position in the first 2 races, only enough for the second row so far.
Fascinating stuff. We'll see what he can do from the back. We have seen him have to battle forward in the first race, had to try and clear Mick Claridge. And remember, we said he's not here today. Well, apparently also with his biking that he is avid with, his cycling, he got himself a pretty bad blister. In his words, a Mick Claridge-sized blister, which is why he is not able to come out and compete today. I would have to assume that it's pretty bad that he can't hop on his sim and get in to try and wheel the car. There we see Ove Trangrade electing not to take another lap. Robert Reynolds comes across the line, actually on his first time lap, and I think he should have enough time to get this one in, although he's going a little bit slow here over the first crest.
Another thing that we haven't talked about, just really quickly, I wanted to give the viewers an update of the Combined Championship, because since this season the Lotus 49 has paired with the Spec Racer Ford Championship, where drivers will compete in both and are classified in the Combined Championship. Now David Gaspers, who is currently leading the Lotus 49 Championship, is also leading the Combined one, just in front of Demetrius Houdludis and Garrett McGraffy, who was here last week but isn't here this week at Sonoma.
And as we watch the Midwest driver work his way through the S's, I think he's the only one out on track at the moment. Well, it looks like we do have Ove kind of wheeling around, but he's just, seems like he's kind of goofing around right now at the moment. That or he's practicing something. I'm just not sure what he's doing exactly.
I mean, as he's going off quite heavily there, that's a little bit too much drifting that you do in that corner, Ove. At least he knows now what not to do when he's battling side by side there with Michel and David.
Yeah, exploring the limits, I guess you could say. As Reynolds isn't going to take a time. It comes to a halt here at the end of the lap, so obviously wants to start from the tail end of the field, and that will set our grid. So let's go through our starting order. Michel Dudignon on the pole once again. It's been a while since we've seen the Frenchman win one. Let's see if he can do it today. Ove Trangrade will be on the outside of that front row. David Gaspers starts in third with Dimitrios Houdaloutis trying to get a little bit better result, but he'll have to do it from fourth. Gary Thiel starts in fifth with Marco Kika beginning this race in P6. Jason Perry starts in seventh. He'll be followed by Richard Moore, and the Canadian gets a good starting position for today. Simon Shaw, he took a win earlier this week apparently by getting out to the front and just denying anybody an opportunity to pass. He'll start ninth, and Daniel Gattuso returns starting in P10.
Yeah, Matt Wright in that battle for the Formula 2 Championship lead with Hideki Kofisto. Well, he has the best papers out there because he starts in front of his rival in P11. Next to him on row 6, Don Good, also ahead of that Formula 2 driver of Hideki Kofisto, who is probably a little bit disappointed with P13 out there in this 15-car field. Jim Brewster qualifies in P14, and as we saw, Robert Reynolds, the only driver without a qualifying time, starts race in 15th place.
Now, it'll be a slightly shorter race than typical for this series. They tend to do about 40-minute races. This one will be roughly 25 to 30 minutes. And if ever there was a race where David Gaspers did not want to start on a place other than the pole, I think it'd be here, where it's already, as we mentioned, very tough to pass with fewer opportunities, with less laps out there. So as they start to grid up, we are getting ready to watch round 3 here in the Lotus 49 World Cup. Just a few more drivers that we are waiting on as our pole sitter finally gets himself out there. And now Trangrade gets onto the grid, and Dudignon has disappeared once again and not returned. Our pole sitter is not going to be able to take the green as the lights are up. Green flag is out, and Ove Trangrade inherits the pole. Let's see what he can do with David Gaspers behind him. Gaspers twitching on the power as they climb up the hill towards 2. As they slow up for the crest, everybody already single file.
Michel Dudignon is in the pits. Maybe the French driver had too little fuel. He realized when he was on the grid, went into the pits to refuel, and was too late to get on the grid. Ove Trangrade is under heavy pressure of David Gaspers, the German driver, looking on the inside of the chute but not able to make that move. Now, we talked about this, Joe. When you're in front, it's really difficult to actually get past here. I think Ove Trangrade is probably laughing right now in his car because he is leading the race here at Sonoma.
This is certainly going to help him with the points if he can manage to fend him off for the entire race. But it is going to be a long 20 laps for the Scandinavian, as David Gaspers, you mentioned, already under his gearbox and poking and prodding. No pressure from behind either, as Houdaloutis has dropped off a little bit in this first lap. The gap as they come to the line for the first time is over a second between second and third, but less than 2/10 between Gaspers and Trangrade.
Very clean start, I have to say. Basically every driver is, well, apart from the disappearance of Michel Dudignon, still in the position that they qualified in, except for Hideki Kofisto, who managed to pass Don Good in lap 1.
As we ride on board with Gaspers, you get a real good idea of how close he is to the Scandinavian, working their way through 3 and 3A. And we had a problem with Matt Wright.
He had contact even with, as we go to a replay, I think he had contact with Daniel Gattuso.
Just lost it on his own. And as he came to a rest on the track, he was in a blind spot. Poor Matt Wright. Oh, wow, he T-boned him. Just no place to go. Thankfully, both drivers able to continue on. In fact, the only driver not out on track right now is Dudignon.
It was Jim Brewster, by the way, not Daniel Gattuso, who's still able to continue. Jim Brewster has opted out to put his car in the pits and is currently there for repairs. Michel Dudignon actually left the server, I just see. So the Frenchman who grabbed pole position is retired from the race.
Disappointing to see. Just has not had good results lately, unfortunately. As even the opening round at Okayama, we saw Dudignon farther back than what we're used to. Boy, this battle is just not unabated. We're already on lap 3 with how quickly these laps are rifling off, and Trangrade getting a little aggressive on the curbs as he's starting to feel the pressure here.
But that's one of the things. Like I don't know if you agree the sentiment, but I always have the feeling that Ovi Trangerade is a driver that's extremely quick, but also maybe a little bit more than others prone to mistakes. And today that's something that he really has to keep under check, because in this track it's okay if you're a little bit slower than the car behind you, because it is so difficult to overtake, and it's just impertinent that he doesn't make any mistakes out there today.
I would completely agree. What we've seen in the many seasons we covered the Lotus 49, Trangerade known for giving up opportunities. Probably why we haven't seen him get a championship quite yet, as Gaspers pokes his nose in a little bit down into the hairpin. And we've seen this story before from David. He did the same thing to Mick Claridge in the first round when Claridge got himself to the front and held off Gaspers for about half the race, but just could not do it all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, P3, the battle between Dimitrios Houdeludis and Gary Thiel is also heating up a little bit. The Greek driver made a mistake last time around, lost quite a bit of track time because of that, because the gap was almost increased to 1 second. Now, as you can see on screen now, it's only half a second between the two drivers that are battling for the final podium position. But I have the feeling, Joe, that Dimitrios Houdeludis, bar that mistake, is a little bit quicker than Gary Thiel and will be able to drive away.
Yeah, right now he's got a little bit of breathing space to hopefully calm down. We didn't see it on screen, but I thought I caught Gaspers taking a look into turn 7 there, coming off of the chute. And he's getting awful close coming here. Oh, and he tries to get the power down, coming out of 10 up towards the hairpin of 11. We watch on board, but not close enough. He does look like he's trying to set himself up as he takes another look there, getting very close to the tires.
Ovi Trangerade got really loose there on the throttle, and that almost opened up an opportunity for David Gaspers. Now, I'm kind of waiting, Joe, for David Gaspers to just try a move in the hairpin there. That seems really like the place on track where he's quicker, although he has a great run here out of turn 3, I think, but not quick enough, the German is to make a move on the Norwegian.
Oh, getting so close to the rear of that white Honda liveried Lotus. And I get the feeling that Gaspers, oh, and a big mistake going very wide, coming off the corner for Trangerade. Gaspers goes around the outside. Trangerade going to make them work for it as they go side by side and weave their way into the S's. They can't hold on to this forever. Trangerade, oh, is on the outside of the corner, tries to get the power down. David Gaspers doing all he can to try and pry this position away. Has he got it? They're coming up to turn 10. They come together.
Oh,
both of them into the wall. Here comes Houdeludis. Tries to go around the outside. Has to check up both cars. All 3 cars. Here comes Kika trying to get into second position now.
Heartbreak. David Gaspers is grabbing over the circuit. I think his race is over as we see the battle here on screen between Gary Thiel.
Thiel has to give it up as Kika gets himself into the S's. I said they couldn't hold on to this side by side forever, and it came to tears.
It's difficult. We go to a replay here. Now it seems that David Gaspers, yeah, he hit the curb quite hard on the left side and braked himself a little bit because of that. Ovi Trangerade obviously didn't anticipate that and just plowed the German off the track.
Watch it from onboard Trangerade, see if he had any time to react for this, because it looked like the car appeared in front of him. Yeah, just suddenly swung across his nose. Next thing he knew, he was spinning around like a washing machine.
Both cars are in the pits at the moment, and we could see Dimitrios Houdeludis is the lucky driver. He has gotten the P1 position. Marco Kika and Gary Thiel are in a heavy battle for P2. But Marco Kika is able to keep Gary Thiel behind him so far. Marco Kika having a great race out there. Started in P6, currently second.
Oh, Dimitri, as he goes by the tire tracks of that incident from the previous lap, has to be grinning ear to ear. He saw the pole sitter disappear, and now he's watched the top 2 tangle, handing him the lead. We said he has pace. He's shown it in the first 2 rounds. Now, can he capitalize that now that it has practically fallen in his lap?
He was 2/10 quicker than Marco Kika and Gary Thiel in qualifying. I do think that the Greek driver, as long as he stays calm, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, It's not a long race out there today, so you might be able to grab that. While we're looking at that battle for P2, I just want to quickly mention another driver that's having a great race out there, Hideki Koifisto. Started in P13, was up to P7 just last lap. Got overtaken though this lap around by Richard Morin, but the Finnish driver is really profiting from the mistakes of other people, and above all he has overtaken both Matt Wright and Don Good, which will mean good business for him in the Formula 2 Championship.
That seems to be the MO of Koivisto in the previous Formula 2 championships that he has fought for, as we watch Richard Morin there just ahead of him in the sights of the Finn. We've been covering the front so much, really haven't touched the back a whole lot, but then there hasn't been too many close battles that I've seen. Good and Wright were relatively close, but it looks like Good is losing ground bit by bit to the number 12. In fact, our closest battle still for that second place position. Kiko really taking advantage, but now he's got traffic to deal with, as that's Robert Reynolds up ahead of him. Reynolds dutifully pulls off to the side.
Yeah, good awareness for him. And Marco Kika, Gary Till, Gary Till is looking left and right to try and move there. He probably sees Dimitrios Houdeludis driving away in front of them at the top two duo. Marco and Gary managed a 13.4 last time around. Dimitrios at 12.9, so half a second quicker the Greek driver was to P2 and P3. So if the Gary or Marco wants to make a move for the P1 position, they kind of have to make the move now, with almost half of the race done already.
Well, as the number 6 stalks him, he is calling out Polo each time, trying to figure out if he can find a way past Marco. Up across the line they come. You can see on the upper left of your screen, the laps are ticking down very quickly, almost halfway through already. They come to the crest of 2 one more time. So far, Kika has been able to fend him off. We've already seen that when the battles start to erupt here, it can quickly turn sour. Good run here.
Just want to give a quick update about the 2 cars that just crashed. David Gaspers has left the session, so he has retired for out there. Over Trengate is still in the pits. I think that the Norwegian driver is trying to repair his car and lap some more laps before the race is over.
Yeah, with how short this race is, it could be that Gaspers maybe just simply didn't have enough time to try and get the car back out on track to do anything from here. As we said, the last car right now running is Robert Reynolds, and he is only 1 lap down, so it would be almost impossible to try to gain on him unless he makes an error and drops out. As we ride on board with Marco, looking back at Thiel, and he goes way wide into the hairpin. This is going to be the best opportunity for Gary as they go side by side, Johan.
Yeah, this is a difficult corner to keep it side by side. Hard walls on either side, but they're keeping it clean. Oh, they touch each other though. Gary Thiel being sent hard into the wall. Oh. Collected hard by Jason Perry.
And Perry's able to continue. Let's watch the replay. The second time in this race that a side-by-side battle has just gone south. There's only so much room, as you said, with this being street course-like. And as soon as he got hit, the momentum of that car just plowed him into the wall with, as you saw, Jason Perry coming up to him with nowhere to go.
Difficult to say whose fault it was. Marco Kika obviously steering into the corner, but not steering in as heavily as Gary Thiel, and just touched each other on the wheels, and Thiel being sent into the wall. Now poor Jason Perry, who was doing great so far, starting in P7, was up to P4, well, now he's up to P3. Luckily for him, Perry is able to continue without too much damage, and seems to be able to still drive some quick lap times and keep that gap that he has to Simon Shaw in a decent distance.
That's what I was wondering, is how much damage is on the car. Shaw looks like he might be losing time a little bit, so obviously isn't too damaged. The worry, it seems to me, always with these cars is whether or not you hit the suspension on them, because the nose seems to be able to take a bit of a beating.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have the nose damage, you can still continue. But once you have you could see it with David Gaspers. Once that suspension is gone, your car starts to crap, and there's nothing you can do to really go quick anymore. The car is basically undrivable at that point. With the contact between Marco Kika and Gary Thiel, the closest battle that we had is basically gone. But as you can see on screen now, Simon Shaw and Daniele Gattuso are quite close together as well. Only half a second between the two over start finish, and over the last laps Daniele Gattuso has closed the gap to Simon Shaw. Last time around alone Daniele Gattuso was 9/10 quicker than Simon Shaw, so it seems that Simon Shaw is maybe struggling a little bit to keep up the pace that he had earlier in the race and in qualifying.
From what I understand, Gattuso, one of the new-ish drivers here in Lotus 49, and I'm sure he's enjoying this race, seeing a top 5 potentially in his future, maybe even a 4th place finish if he can do something with Shaw. As we found out earlier in the week, though, Shaw can be a hard nut to crack, and right now he's not even close enough to make an attempt on Simon.
You're mentioning, though, I was actually looking, Daniele Gattuso started in P10, so he already made up 5 positions so far in the race. But then I started looking, all the drivers that started in the top 3 this race have retired so far. The top 3 consists of drivers that started in 4th, 6th and 7th position. So that shows to really never give up and always give your best, because you never know what happens. And the drivers that started a little bit further down the field are actually the drivers going for a podium position.
You know, I didn't think to make attrition a note in this race, but apparently we should have. As we watch the battle between Koivisto and Wright, those two equally as close and battling 4th, 7th spot. They weave their way into the S's. The car that we ride on board with is Wright at the moment. The yellow machine up ahead is Koivisto.
The last time, lap times last time around were actually quite comparable, but it seems that Matt Wright in the laps before has done some really quick lap times, low 14s, high 13s. It's almost half a second, even more than David Koivisto is, quicker than Koivisto is. So the driver from Australia, New Zealand is able to close the gap to the finish drive.
So obviously these other drivers, most of them have not been able to see these other incidents going on, but I feel like if you were out there and able to have someone alert you of what's been happening, Johan, do you feel like the lesson of this these 2 incidents that we've seen being maybe you've got to be careful about where you pick your passing spots?
That's the thing that we were talking about on top of the broadcast. Like, it's so difficult to do it here. So when you make that move, it will always be very dangerous. It will always be in a place that's suboptimal, like going side by side in the SS, going side by side in the start-finish straight with the wall so close by. There's just almost no room for error here. But if you want to make that position, you kind of have to. There's really not another choice. You could try a dive bomb maybe in turn 4, turn 5. Maybe that's a little bit safer, but I think that making a pass in this version of the Sonoma circuit would just always have a lot of danger attached to it. So yeah, I don't think that the drivers will kind of listen to the fact that, hey, crashes happen, be careful, because they just want to make that overtake. And well, the danger be damned, just go for it and try to make that move stick, I guess.
There we see our leader. The gap right now between himself and Kika is 5.5 seconds. He is not in any danger, just has to deal with the traffic, which he's been doing bit by bit, putting laps on various cars as he comes across them. One thing I do think the drivers will listen to is, I'm guessing, at least this layout of Sonoma, if they do return here, won't be back next season.
I don't think so either. I don't think I've seen this many crashes in a Lotus 49 race so far. A lot of the drivers that had problems out there have retired, have put their car behind the wall and are packing up for this weekend, except Jim Brewster, the driver that started in P14, is out there on track. He's currently 1 lap behind David Gaspers and over Trangrade, so I think that he will be able to overtake them. He's 5 laps behind Gary Thiel, so before the race is over, I think that Jim Brewster will be able to overtake him as well. So by just continuing, he will pick up 3 more places before the day is done.
Yeah, good on the number 11 for getting that car back out there. Obviously, one of the few able to repair it in time. Everybody else just too much to try and get it to limp around at the end as we ride on board with Koivisto now looking back at Matt Wright. They tick off yet one more lap, down to 6 to go there on our timer.
Matt Wright looking a little bit on the inside here, but that's not really one of the places that you can make a move. A very difficult one there over the crest. You kind of have to go there single file to really keep up your speed and your momentum over the lap. Matt Wright, as I said, he has been quick, but when he got behind Hideki Koifisto, his lap times dropped off a bit, just not able to overtake him and continue the pace that he was driving. With only 6 laps to go, he's probably thinking, will I try to make that move, or will I stay behind him and get some good points for the Formula 2 Championship?
Whoa! And
ooh, he spins it around. He got too close to the Finnish driver. Luckily for him, he doesn't hit the wall. Done good behind him. I think he's overtaking him or is just behind him. No, he's just behind him, so he doesn't lose a position. He loses a lot of time to the Finnish driver, and I think that battle is over, Joe.
I would agree. We watched on board. Looks like he got a little bit shaken how quickly he approached him there. And unfortunately, that was our only battle left, because Gattuso and Shaw have separated as well. At this point, everybody's mostly just focusing on their race and not necessarily those around him.
Well, just to talk about that incident of Matt Wright that he just had, I think that's part to blame in the fact that he was quicker than Hideki Koifisto. He was able to drive the 13s that Hideki was not able to drive. So he was able to carry a lot more speed in that corner, maybe better rhythm, a better setup, better mood today. But he was quicker and just got caught out completely by Hideki being not so quick as he was. And good for him. I have to say that he actually managed to avoid the rear of Koifisto's car.
So we get down to 5 laps to go now. Let's run you through the field because there have been a number of changes since the start of the grid. Dimitrios Houdalouris is your leader, having started in 4th. And he really didn't have to make a single pass, I think, to get to the lead, as everybody in front of him essentially wrecked out. Marco Kika sitting in 2nd position, starting from 6th place. Just keeping it together has earned him spots as well. Jason Perry, driving a bit of a damaged car, has himself from 7th to a podium at the moment. Simon Shaw sits in 4th. He does have a little bit of a challenge, though, behind him. We've been mentioning Gattuso stalking him, but that gap has been swinging back and forth between a 2nd and a 2.5 seconds. So the 5th place driver of Gattuso has not made good inroads. What's the back half of the top 10 look like?
Richard Morin is one of the drivers that we, I think, haven't talked about out there today. The driver from Canada started in P8, currently in P6, profiting from the retirement of other people. He's leading Hideki Koifisto. There's not a lot of seconds between them, currently 4 seconds, but I don't think that the Finnish driver is quicker than Richard Morin at this moment. So I think that Hideki Koifisto, who's started at P13, he's a hard charger as well, making up 6th position so far. I don't think he'll be able to make another move forward. Matt Wright, we saw him spin a little while ago. He's still sitting in P8. He's increasing the gap that he had to Don Good. And we'll try to close the gap to Hideki Koifisto as much as possible if the Finnish driver will make a mistake. Don Good is having a quiet race, currently 45 seconds behind the leader in P9, making up 3 positions so far. Good quiet race for him. This will net him a nice amount of points in that Formula 2 championship, and I think that he'll even go to P3 in the championship if things stay as they are. Robert Reynolds is the last car on track, I think.
Brewster's out there.
Brewster as well, yeah. Robert Reynolds is still there, 2 laps down at the moment, but yeah, making up 5 positions because other drivers had trouble during the race at Sonoma today. And Jim Brewster, he's one of the only car that actually went into the pits to fix some of the things on his car after that crash that he had at the beginning of the event today. He's currently 9 laps down, started at P14, driving in P12, going strong, trying to overtake Gary Thiel.
Well, give a bright blue fish to the number 11 then. I think he gets our Dory Award of the day for just getting out there and try to see the checkered flag as we watch our leader come around on the penultimate lap here. Dimitrios Houdalouris looking a win in the face. If he could just bring it home for a lap and a half. We ride on board. Coming around turn 7A. One thing I will not understand, though, is the numbering system they have for this track, though, Johan.
Yeah, exactly. You would almost say like after turn 7 comes turn 8, but not in Sonoma. They call it 7A, just to make it a little bit more confusing for the viewers and the commentators.
Well, and 7A is also after turn 4A, so figure that one out. All right. As Dimitrios comes around to the hairpin, gets it rode up nice and smoothly, we're starting to see what he is made of. We've seen him come around with speed at Okayama, at Sebring. We've watched him race over in the Weekend Warriors, another series that we cover here on the GSRC. In both series, he has shown he can be fast, but he's made mistakes at Sebring, handed away a good opportunity in the final lap. Well, as he comes around here with the white flag now waving for the other cars and half a lap yet to go, the number 3 with an 8.8 second lead is almost there for his first win in the Lotus 49 World Cup.
I think with this win, he also grabs the lead in the Formula 1 Championship with David Gaspers retiring. Dimitrios will grab 40 points. That will help him a lot fighting for the championship this season.
To the end of the S's he comes, out of the tricky, fast turn 10, trying to find the power. Up past Gilligan's Island, he comes to the hairpin. One lone car ahead. I don't think Robert Reynolds will even bother about trying to let him by, as he wants one more lap, because Dimitrios Houdaloutis is going to be your winner here in round 3 of the Lotus 49 World Cup.
Great driving from the Greek. Now behind him another driver will be very happy. Marko Kika from Finland started in P6, comes home in P2. Great drive from Marko.
And Jason Perry with a podium from 7th place. Nice drive. Damaged car, limps home to spray the champagne. Simon Shaw is able to fend off Gattuso to take a 4th place. Gattuso settles for a top 5.
Richard Morin behind him stays quite comfortably in front of Hideki Corfisto, the Canadian driver, finishing in P6. And Hideki Corfisto, who was battling hard for that lead in the Formula 2 Championship, this race and in the championship, well, he comes home in P7. And I think that wins him the race in the Formula 2 class as well.
I think Simon Shaw got it. I'm seeing Simon at a 2200 rating. So Simon actually really punching above his weight today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Simon Shaw hasn't driven in a race yet, if I see in the championship. So no, Simon Shaw winning the Formula 2 race so far.
And with that, we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Definitely stick around for the interviews on this one, because I think we're going to hear some interesting things for sure. And also on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. And after that, we'll have the race results. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sonoma Raceway. We just watched round 3 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. If I had to describe this one with a single word, I think shocker would be the one that comes to mind. A lot of interesting developments here early in the season, but Dimitrios Houdaloutis takes his maiden win here on the broadcast races for the Lotus 49 World Cup. Marco Kika with a nice podium there in second position, with Jason Perry rounding out third for our top 3, able to spray the champagne. Simon Shaw takes the F2 win there with a 4th place finish. That is going to be a handy haul of points for him. Daniel Gattuso gets 5th position behind him, having tried to pressure it out of him the whole race long and just couldn't do it. Richard Moore in the Canadian takes 6th place with Hideki Koivisto, another one of his consistent finishes. He goes from 13th to 7th. What a game of spots. Matt Wright takes 8th place behind him, with 9th going to Don Hood, and a top 10 for Robert Reynolds.
And then in the back end of the field, there are 5 drivers that had quite a bit of misfortune out there. Jim Brewster comes home in 11th. Starting from P14. Now, he was involved in an incident and he was the only driver that actually made it back out on the track, gaining 3 positions doing so, because a few drivers didn't manage to get out again. One of those was Gary Thiel. He was involved in that incident with Marco Kika in the start-finish straight. Now, because of that, Gary Thiel only finishes in P12. David Gaspers and Ovi Trangrate. I think that we were imagining we were talking about P1 and P2 for these drivers. Well, not today. They come home in 13th and 14th position in Sonoma. The last driver didn't actually race. The pole sitter Michel Dudion missed the grid, and after that missed the race as well. He's classified as 15th out there.
And here's an interesting one for you. The grid was reversed at the tail of the field. Dudignon, Trangrate, then Gaspers. But up at the front, our 4th place starter, Dimitri. It has probably been a little bit of redemption, I have to imagine, after the mistake at the end of last week's race. How do you feel?
Hello, guys. Yeah, it has been a redemption, but I don't know if it's exactly redemption or something more than that. I don't know a word in English to describe this. I was very lucky, but I will take it, I think.
Yeah, this will help you in the championship. And Johan thinks, we'll double check our math, that this will actually move you to the top spot in the championship. Are you thinking about that at all? Do you just try to race to race on this?
I really like setting up purposes before the start of the seasons. So in the beginning, I wanted to take a top 10 in the standings, in the final standings. But as the season goes by, I think that I will go for a top 5 now. I think I can do it.
I think it's absolutely feasible. Now, next round, we're going to a track that we probably thought would be more punishing than this one, and that is Detroit, the newest circuit on iRacing. Do you think that you can maybe do a bit of the same and just avoid trouble to get a good result there?
I have close to none experience there, but I didn't even have it at Sonoma. I don't know if it's more difficult, but it is at least as difficult as Sonoma. Sonoma has some walls, and if you make a mistake here, it's very possible that you are out of the race. You saw what happened with the incidents. This track didn't forgive at all. I think Detroit will be at the same standards race-wise. It will need a lot of caution and a very cautious approach.
Dimitrios, here's Johan here, also in the booth. Welcome. I was just wondering what your view was of the incident. We obviously saw David and Ove tangle and wreck each other out. Did you actually manage to see what happened from your point of view? And if so, what was really your verdict about what happened?
Yeah, as from what I saw, I think David clipped the gravel in the inside, and we all know very well what happens when these cars are on throttle and not on the pavement. So I think it just they were side by side in a difficult high-speed corner. I think it was just a racing incident. Both are great drivers. It's not like it was just a very unfortunate situation for them. but at the same time, very fortunate for the rest of us. Yes.
Obviously. Now, that's actually one thing that we were talking about during the race. Is that something that goes through your mind as a racer? That you know that it's very difficult and also very dangerous to make an overtake here, that you might opt out to stay behind another driver? Or would you personally always be looking for that overtake and making it no matter what track you're on?
From what I have understood, I think at least for me, I think I have an advantage from the guys that were on the same pace when we run on colder conditions. So for example, at Sebring, I took advantage of that in the first laps, and I managed to pass David. Otherwise, I think the qualifying process is one of the most important in this series, because it's very difficult to pass, let alone try to pass, let alone make it stick.
Well, we saw that today. And again, congratulations on a well-earned win. We can't wait to see you next week.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Dimitrios Houdaloutis, our winner here today, and our only interviewee. I guess everybody else is out licking their wounds, unfortunately, or in the case of Kika and Perry, probably celebrating a bit. So we're going to close up, and of course, a big thank you both to Ben Zocco and the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here on the GSRC. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team in the booth today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel. We're on Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel, and we're on Instagram at GSRC_Graham. There is also a big red button on our YouTube page. If you head on over there and click it, it says subscribe on it. You won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. We'll have a big announcement about that later today on some of our social media, so keep an eye on that. We're very excited about some things. The next race we mentioned, we're heading to Detroit, the newest track on iRacing. That'll be Saturday, July 7th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.